Oh, Gene's here, okay. Beautiful. We can start now. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call this special meeting of the MDC Government Committee to order. My name is John Bazzano, and I will be chairing this meeting. Today is Monday, February 11th, and it is 4:02. Thank you very much. Is there anyone here from the public that wishes to make comments relative to any agenda items? Anyone from public? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 3, which is the independent consumer advocate comments and questions relative to agenda items. Okay.
I don't have any at this time.
Okay, thank you. Number 4, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the January 6th meeting.
Second.
You. Any discussions, comments? All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Abstentions? Nays? Minutes are approved. Item number 5 is a discussion and potential action regarding a proposed House Bill number 584, I can't see, I should have my glasses.
Yeah.
5040?
5840, yeah.
Which is an act concerning the Metropolitan District Commission and payments in lieu of taxes. I'll open that up for discussion.
Well, yeah, let me just, if I can just give a brief introduction on that, and then if there's any, I guess, I'm looking at the bill, it's 4 lines, so there may not be a lot of opportunity, Brendan, for you to give a thorough analysis of this, but I'll give it a shot, and if I miss anything, you let me know, okay? All right, Chris Stone, District Council, this is a bill that was proposed by Representative Sanchez, and it's been co-sponsored by Representative Farrar, Delnicki, and Senator Lesser. And originally, the bill came out as a bill that, if not specifically, by implication, called for a tax on the MDC by way of a pilot. And you've gotten received emails from me explaining what happened, and it happens, right? And it's not just Representative Sanchez's fault, it's not our fault. The way the bill came out, it read in a manner that's similar to 2 other proposals, one in 2016, one in 2019, both of which would have called for a tax on MDC property that the MDC would pay to the city of Hartford. Neither one of those proposals were successful, and the proposal that initially came out as proposed bill 5840 was unclear on whether that was the intent or was there some other intent. Well, fortunately, and we responded, and we made sure that the other people within the MDC, representatives within the MDC towns, knew of our general position on the issue of taxing our property, and we let them know that. But as it turns out, and through conversations with Representative Sanchez, who's very upfront and forthright in what his ultimate goal was, and his ultimate goal is what's stated here, is that there wouldn't be a pilot paid by the MDC, but rather the state pilot that the city of Hartford and all municipalities are able to participate in if they have state-owned property or property that's otherwise tax exempt, would be able to, you would place the MDC property into the pool, and they'd get credit. They, meaning in this case the city of Hartford, would get credit for the percentage value. I think it's 20% of the fair market value for MDC property, and so it would mean they get the city of Hartford, and according to the bill, other towns within the MDC, the 7 other towns, would get a greater percentage of the fixed pilot amount that the state pays for payments in lieu of taxes. So it has no effect on the MDC. It has no effect on the MDC ratepayer. It has no effect on the MDC member towns. It may, in fact, if passed, benefit the member towns, because not only does Hartford have properties that would be put into their pilot that are owned by the MDC, but West Hartford, for example, has property. Rocky Hill has a plan. Windsor has a plan. East Hartford has a plan. All those things would be added to their particular pilot calculation, and it may mean more money to them. Caution, just be aware that the pilot pool is fixed. Shrinks.
And so whatever monies
Hartford may get, or West Hartford may get, in addition to what they're getting now, is not new money but rather it's money that's going to come from someone else. And that's just an observation. It may or may not affect passage of the bill, but as it sits now, our original objection to a bill where we would be paying the pilot is not an objection anymore. And so it's on the agenda for not only for that explanation, but and I don't need a resolution necessarily, Mr. Chairman, but I think I'll call it none of our business, right? It's really something that we're not necessarily asking you to take, I don't believe, a position one way or the other, but we're just going to stand down on any opposition to the bill. So that's the first one.
Let me just,
Questions on that?
yeah, let me just open up for, yeah.
But you got to understand, the push and shove will be in the Appropriations Committee because the appropriations made to the pilot program. If more money isn't put in and they put the MDC's properties in there, it will shrink down how much everybody else is getting because it's a cumulative amount of money. And if they don't add to the appropriation, because these properties are going to be significant, it'll reduce the amount of money in that, and it'll reduce everybody's take on it. So there's going to be some pushback by other towns, because unless they put more in the appropriation, they're going to get less.
Right. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair?
Yes. Yes.
I just had a quick question, Mr. Chair, maybe to District Council. I'm just wondering, what percentage, do we know what percentage the latest pilot is funded at? I was just wondering in the last budget what the percentage
I
was.
think it's around 20%, but I'm not sure. I can get that for you, Commissioner, but I'm not sure as I sit here. And that may change. It's a budget year this year, so.
Commissioner Gojo, you had a question? Yes.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Gardo here. When we say property, is that land, or is it buildings, or is it infrastructure? What is it? What is meant by property?
However they want to describe it. Honestly, it's certainly land. It's certainly buildings. I'm not sure on the personal, the infrastructure, the pipes in the ground. I'd have to look at the statute, the pilot statute, to make that call, and we can get back to you on that, Commissioner, but it's at least the land and the buildings.
A follow-up on that. So all the land in Barkhamsted and New Hartford, is that part of it, or do we already pay taxes on?
We already pay taxes on that. We pay taxes.
So there's the MDC has X amount of property, including land in non-district towns. So of that percentage, what part of that would be, because there's a lot of land out there. Okay, what about West Hartford? West Hartford, I'm curious, we talk about the pilot pie, we understand that, okay? But and you're right, it's for them to figure out, okay? I don't want to get too far in the weeds, but it can be tremendous.
As to the member towns of the MDC, those towns that make up the metropolitan district, any property, and at least real estate and buildings, improvements upon that real estate, the value of that would be added to the calculation of each of those individual eight member towns' pilot payment from the state of Connecticut. That's what this bill does. As to our non-member towns, Barkhamsted, New Hartford, Heartland, Colebrook, those properties are already taxed by another formula under 12-76, which basically says that they're taxed directly and paid by the MDC, or taxed as if it were improved farmland, which is a lower value than, an industrial facility, but it's, at the time, this goes back to 1929, and it's been that way ever since. That was the average value of land within those towns where we took property to build our reservoir system. So that's already, and that's not touched by this. That's
part of my, yeah, okay, thank you.
If I may,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair. Just not, it doesn't say this, but just to clarify, I think one of the parties to this is Mr. Delnicky, right, Senator?
Not this one.
Not
Well,
this one.
no, he's on the pilot boat
Okay,
too.
so just to clarify, and I don't pretend to know this, but
Oh, yeah.
I do know that one of the conversations we've had over the years on this issue is the private water utilities, Connecticut Water, Aquarian Water, they actually pay taxes on the pipes in the ground. So I don't know what the proposed is here. We spend $3.8 million on the watershed towns and the non-member towns for taxes. I don't know if this is proposing to tax pipes in the ground, but that's what happens in South Windsor. And I know, Legislative Delnicky, right? It's not a senator. So I don't know if that's what his plan is, but I know that he is aware of that tax on the infrastructure pipes in the ground. So I don't know if they're proposing that.
Right, they're not.
Commissioner Torres, yes.
Maybe I can clarify some of these issues. There are water companies in the state that have certain tax agreements with the towns they operate in already. That already exists. Because the MDC, for all practical purposes, is a municipality exempt from paying taxes. It doesn't, any kind of tax, it is not included in the pilot program, like the major institutions are, such as hospitals, Trinity College, and so forth. What this bill attempts to do is to try to simply have the MDC treated as a nonprofit organization that should be also included in that formula so that the 8-member towns can at least recoup some of the lost revenue that they would otherwise get from taxing the property, whether it's through a regular taxing structure or a pilot program. To give you an idea, the pilot is based on the value of the real property. Brookfield has an assessed value, MDC properties, at $27,684,550. East Hartford, $6,367,000. Hartford, $198,800,000. Newington, $990,340,000. Rocky Hill, $1,625,000. West Hartford, $18,896,000. Weathersfield, $331,000, some change again, and Windsor, $3,057,000. So just to give you an idea of what the assessed values are in each of those properties. If in fact this bill goes through, then the MDC would go under the formula of other state-owned property under that tier. So that's how that would work out. So depending on the reimbursement rate in the pilot, that would then give us an idea of how much taxes the individual member towns would receive in lieu of the taxes they are not receiving because the MDC is treated in a different way than other nonprofit organizations, because it becomes, for all intents and purposes, a municipality, not as a regular nonprofit organization. So that's the kind of the overall picture of what's going on here.
Thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner DeBella?
Yeah. It's okay. This thing, until you see the committee-raised bill, you're guessing at a lot of the things that.
It could change. time, so.
But
Or it's
whatever the
actually
case is, if they want to appropriation,
Yeah.
everybody else is gonna get ratcheted back.
Yeah. Commissioner.
Again, it's something that the legislature needs to look at. In terms of, if they want to do this, then they have to do some other things. So I'm sure that, when they deliberate, if they want to do this, they would have to then figure out a way to either expand on the appropriations piece for the pilot or, whatever formulas that they want to come up with. But I don't think that would be something that would be our concern. Ours is pretty straightforward in terms of the municipalities that make up the member towns, that this is a fair way of being able to allow the municipalities, the member towns, to recoup some of those lost taxes that otherwise they would get if it were in the pilot. How the legislature chooses to, resolve this issue, that's a thing that they have to deal with. But I think at face value, this is what it is, and they would need to deal with the other issues. I don't want to debate the appropriations piece here, because that's not, I think, what we're about. We're looking at this particular bill and what this bill intends to do.
Agreed. Any other questions? Really not much we can do with this item, is there? I mean, as far as,
Chris,
so,
No.
yes.
what committee is this in now? Is it in,
Appropriations.
is it in approps?
Appropriations.
Yeah, so it's gotta go to approps, gotta go back to finance too, because they're fooling around with taxes.
Yeah. So I don't want to expend too much energy on this. There's really not much we can do about this. So, I mean, as a committee, I don't think we should oppose it as a committee, and I would like to move this forward. Really can't vote on it, right? Really, no need to vote on it? We can move it to the full body favorably. That makes sense?
You can move it to the full body without any opposition. You
Okay.
can move it to the body in favor, if you want to speak in favor of it.
Make a motion that we move this to the full body without opposition.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 6 is a discussion and potential action regarding proposed House Bill number 6540. Did I get it right? An act concerning the Metropolitan District of the Hartford County.
All right, this is the Chris Stone District Council. This is the same bill that was submitted last year and probably the year before and maybe even the year before that from Representative Delnicki. It has 4 components to it, some of which we already do, quite frankly, but the first is to require the annual audits by the auditors of public accountants of the MDC's financial records. I will tell you that there's 2 types of audits. There's a simple audit and a more complex, more in-depth audit. The auditors have expressed in the past no willingness to go through and conduct an audit. It would be cost prohibitive in their mind to do that. The larger audit, the more intense audit, and they just don't have the resources to do either, quite frankly. So we don't know where that part of the bill's going. You're aware of the voluminous financial records that we already submit to boards and commissions of cognizance within the state, within the legislature, within the executive branch of state government. I'm not sure what else they could possibly get from a separate audit when we already audit ourselves. But that's the first item. The second is to establish a task force to examine the organization and operation of the MDC. That speaks for itself. The last bill that came through, there was a task force of 12 or 13 people, and there's some details on that to follow, but we've objected to that in the past. The third is to require Board of Commissioners of the Metropolitan District to adopt and administer a model ethics, code of ethics. We do that now. We've done it for years, even before this bill was first proposed, and then you've added some modifications to our code of ethics over the past several years to enhance them and bring them more in line with the model code that they're referring to as a model code that was established, I want to say 20 years ago. It's been modified somewhat since then, but I don't think any municipality in the state of Connecticut has adopted the model code. I could be wrong on that, but if there's any, that's very few. Our code of ethics, I've done the analysis. 95% of what is in the model code is already in our existing code of ethics at the MDC. So I'm not sure there's a need for that. And then finally, a provision to permit the non-member town commissioners to vote on water rates. We've objected to that in the past, primarily because having water customers in non-member towns participate in water rate making without putting the full faith and credit of the municipalities that they're from behind bonding and capital projects, et cetera, that relate to the water side of the house would seem to be a little unfair, at least to certainly our existing member towns and the people who support our water side presently. So we've objected to that in the past. The reason why it's on your agenda is because it's back. And rather than assume that you're going to take the same position that you've taken over the past several years, we want to confirm that the position that we've had on the same bill over the past several years remains the position of this body and ultimately the full board. So that's why it's here, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions, anyone? Commissioner DeBella, you have a question?
I believe, Chris, is this not looking at our charter?
I'm sorry?
Isn't this also looking at our charter relative to, I know that was always part of the West Hartford problem with the good senator out there. I talked to him about a week or so ago on his concern of our charter as it relates to equity of membership and things of that nature that we haven't looked at according to his assessment.
I haven't talked to him, so he hasn't approached
I
me.
said to him, I said, it would make sense to come in and have a discussion, what you think it is, and sit down with the committee and have that conversation.
But we have our lobbyists there every day, so if something comes up where a representative or a senator would like to speak with our lobbyists on those issues, you can certainly direct them to Brendan or Mike or Janice. And then if it's something, if they want to come in, they certainly would be welcome to come in. That'd be fine. I haven't heard from the Senator Slapp. Quite frankly, I don't think Brendan, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he's put in a bill this year.
He didn't
Brendan,
support this.
Brendan?
That's correct, he has not put.
Okay. He's not on this as a co-sponsor. This is, I think it's kind of Representative Nikki's project more than anyone else, but I have spoken with Representative Delnicki on the bill. He's willing to continue discussions with the MDC on the bill. I indicated that at least in the past, we've objected to the bill. Depending upon what happens here for the full board, I assume that objection would continue. But this whole concept of a task force to examine the organization and operation of the MDC is so broad that it could encompass just about anything, whether it be our charter, our ordinances, our bylaws, whatever it might be, our governance, the manner in which commissioners are appointed. It could be, I recall that the last bill from last year, there was much more detail than this, most of which was equally objectionable as this is.
Is there anything different in this particular bill that been introduced other than what's
No,
been
not-
introduced in the past?
Yeah, not from where it starts. This is the general language. This is the starting point. Who knows where the details
once it goes through,
might
sure.
go. I know that the last time, the details were pretty extensive, particularly on the task force part of it. And even more detail on the auditing part of it. So who knows? I know that as we watch it, and as we monitor this, we'll be coming back to you and certainly sharing with you the details that might be offered by Representative Delnicki or others. He's a member of the committee. This is in the Planning and Development Committee, so I suspect that there'll be a public hearing on the bill as a favor to the committee member. And depending upon what happens here and before the board, and hopefully there won't be a committee meeting or hearing on this before the first Monday in February, but we plan on certainly testifying based upon the direction of this committee and the full board as necessary.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
Commissioner
Oh.
Patel here. This discussion on many different times, different politicians raise this concern. Should we not establish our calculations of what does it cost to whoever may want to join? So that may discourage some people if they are not willing to put a bill. So on our own, we should have our discussion and then analyze what that cost should be. So people, before they even think, they know that no matter whatever they are doing, this is the asset of MDC. To become the part of it, it will cost X dollars. Talk is cheap, and all politicians do that talk.
thank you, Commissioner Patel. Commissioner DeBella.
Yeah, I mean, what's in front of you now aren't committee-raised bills. Chris,
That's correct.
this is a wish list of legislators, and I would say 85% of these bills will not make it into a raised committee bill. Once it's a raised committee bill, then you can see how the legislative commissioners put it together, and then you can really determine what the bill is going to do and where they're going to go, the debate, and they can amend it in committee. So, I mean, this is a wish list that, and you know, people put bills in just to cover their, you know, responsibility to their constituents.
Commissioner Torres.
Yeah, I know we've gone this path before. With what we've done this a number of times. Again, you know, as I see this bill, the state can audit the MDC whenever it wants to. I mean, that's their purview. We provide an insurmountable amount of accounting information, not only to the state, but to the feds and everybody else who wants it. It's out there, freedom of information. Anybody wants it, they can have it. To establish a task force to examine the Metropolitan District Commission, then why do we have a commission? Isn't that our responsibility to make sure that this organization is run appropriately? They talk about a model code of ethics. Don't we sign and go through a number of steps every year to make sure that all the commissioners understand that there is a responsibility that they have in terms of a code that guides us in how we should appropriately deal with the business of the organization? We do that every year. We have training, these kinds of things. And the last thing, to permit the commissioners to, other folks to set the water rates, to me, is incongruent with what our charter is all about. And secondly, that it flies in the face of then our other financial obligations in terms of bonding and everything else that's impacted or affected by people deciding rate structures. I mean, that's helter-skelter. To me, it creates more confusion and a lot of crazy work that we would have to do in order to try to do something like this. So I think that we should not support this bill, and just, again, and just move that the committee not support this particular bill.
Is that a motion, Commissioner?
To make it a motion, unless there's more discussion on this,
Is
but
there any more discussion on this?
I'll second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion to move it forward to the full board unfavorably, seconded by Commissioner Wolf. Any discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. And item number 7 is a discussion and potential action regarding the 2025 bill tracking report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chris Stone, and before I turn over to Brendan to go through or to answer any questions you might have on any one particular bill, just a word of caution. Most, if not all, of these bills have been raised as concepts. You have a general description of the bill under title as to what it is purporting to do or attempting to do. The exact language is not out yet, so this won't be the first time hopefully you'll be the only time you'll see this in this general form, but you'll see more specifically as the bills come out. We will forward not just the bill tracking report, but also the bill language associated with each of the bills. Some of them you see on here, you say, gee, how could that have anything to do with the MDC? But there's some tangential connection to the MDC and potential impact on the MDC, so we'd like to keep track of all of them that we find. If you should, in your research or your late nights looking at the doings of the General Assembly, see a bill that's not on the list, there's no pride of authorship here. Please contact us and alert us to that. We try to do the best we can to find those bills that have impact, but we may miss them. So miss one or two. So if there is something that you want us to track, let us know. We'll put it on our tracking list and it'll be part of these weekly reports. There's going to come a time in the not so distant future where things are going to happen quicker at the General Assembly, and there are going to be times that bills of general impact to the MDC, or I guess more importantly, or as important, the MDC customers may arise, and usually they're bills in which we've taken a position in the past, and they're just coming back to be considered by the legislature. And we may have to take a position on behalf of the MDC, or at least share the position of the MDC that's consistent with how the positions we've taken in the past. And we wanted, sometimes you just have to do that. That being said, if there comes a point where there's a bill or proposal or an amendment, even more importantly, amendment that comes in at the last minute and we need to react to the best we can, we're going to share the information with Chairman Bazzano, get his feedback on the bill. If time permits, obviously have another meeting of this body, whether it be in person or remotely, to get the thoughts of the committee members. And we're going to try to do that as often as we can as time allows. And again, amendments come out at 11 o'clock at night, and I'm never going to ask you to, I can't schedule a special meeting in an hour. So we're going to have to rely upon some good faith that what we're doing is either consistent with past policy or is in the best interest of the MDC without actually making policy decisions on your behalf. So that being said, Brendan, you want to? I don't want to go through each of those because that'll take a while. There's a lot on here, but I'm sure you've had an opportunity to look at the list, and we'd be more than happy to answer any questions to the best we can. Again, there's not a lot of language here, but as best we can, give you our take on the bill and give you as much detail as we can. So I would hope maybe we just open it up, Mr. Chairman, if it's all right with you.
Yeah, that's fine. I do have one request,
Sure.
by the way. So if at all possible, can we put the maker of the bill or whoever introduced the bill? I know there are times when you have several.
Right, we'll put the primary sponsor, the initial sponsor on each of these. Yeah, we'll create a column. I talked to Brendan about that earlier
Okay.
today. We'll create a column that shows the initial sponsor of the legislation.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that'd be fine. That's great.
James.
Any questions? Commissioner Wolf?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is the expectation that the bill tracking report will be shared with us, this committee, on a weekly basis or before every meeting?
This report, yes.
Okay.
Whether you're scheduling me or not, we're going to use our best. So far, so good, right? You've gotten a couple, and you'll get one this Friday. They're updated every Friday by Brendan's office.
Great.
You'll get one every Friday, and with updates as to where they are. You'll see the history is going to be as important as the language. You know, that's action areas. If a public hearing's planned on a bill, you'll see it in the history section. In the language, oftentimes the language is too lengthy to include in a summary section under title, right?
Yeah.
So you'll get not only the tracking report, but on those bills that we have language, you'll get the language as well. Probably I think we used to do it, Brendan, by a web address, and they just click it on and
Yeah, we can figure
it'll
that
pop
out.
up.
And this report is delivered electronically, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you have the ability to click on the bill number and access.
Oh, it'll come up automatically? Okay,
I
good.
believe so.
All right, great.
But we'll make it as easy as possible for everybody.
Thank you.
Helpful.
If I may, just a couple of comments before the floor is open to questions. And I affirm and concur with everything District Council Stone said. The two bills that were discussed in prior agenda items, those were raised and brought to the attention of the committee because the Metropolitan District's name is in the title. And that's why it's of particular interest to the MDC. On the Delnicki bill, I fully expect that the bill that we have seen in the past will be the exact bill that comes out when the detailed language comes out. And I also concur with District Council Stone's position that, given Representative Delnicki's membership on the P&D committee, that bill will likely be afforded a public hearing if he asks for it. And I don't know whether he will or not. I've had a few conversations with him. I do think, he has in the past. I think he will push the issue because he enjoys that, quite frankly, and I expect that to happen. The bills that you see on this agenda are on the agenda because there are numbers assigned to the bills. There's one thing I want to remind the committee, and I believe we discussed this in January. The P&D, the Planning and Development Committee, which has jurisdiction over the initial jurisdiction over the MDC charter, has raised a concept called an act concerning the Metropolitan District, period. And that was raised at our request to be a vehicle to the extent we wish to make changes to our charter. And we have suggested to the leadership on the committee that it consider making two changes. One, a very simple one, which is adjusting a date by which we file annual reports with the state. And then the second is to make an amendment to our charter that will allow us to admit a town as a member town, even though it wasn't if it was not contiguous to another member town. That's it. I have not seen. We've offered language to the chairs because they've asked for it. I haven't seen a bill on it, but I do expect it to come out. The concept was raised at our request.
Questions? Commissioner DeBella?
In the last bill, you discussed the contiguous issue of a town. That would still be within the 20-mile jurisdiction of the district?
Yes.
Yes.
So you're not affecting the 20, you're just the contiguous.
Right.
And they'd also have to buy sewer and water?
Well, the 20 relates to our ability to sell water to towns within 20 miles. This really speaks to becoming a member town, which would be sewer and water.
What, that's the
Yeah.
question I'm asking. That would still stand, that it would be both, or would it be one or the other?
We don't yet have a special category of member towns as being just water or just sewer, so it's all in.
So they'd have to be both?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other
Wouldn't it
questions?
give the district more flexibility, though, if we could take them in for water and not sewer?
if you want to propose that before a government committee meeting, we can do that.
Well, I'm just asking a question.
Well, sure, more
Discussed
opportunities.
before. I'm just saying, I'm just seeing it here, but it's been discussed, I would think, in depth if we're just saying we're gonna stick with the existing structure of both.
I wasn't part of the discussion before, but we're not asking for an opinion from this body as to whether we should establish a water-only member town or a sewer-only member town. All we're saying is that right now there's a restriction within our charter that in order to become a member town, as they presently exist, you have to be contiguous to an existing member town of the MDC. And that affects primarily towns like Portland and East Hampton, because Portland, while contiguous to Glastonbury, Glastonbury is not a member town.
Well, hasn't that always Portland been the objection is on the sewer side, not on the water side?
No, it's both.
Both.
Well, I thought they were always more receptive to buying water from us than any idea of, other than what was the
Yeah.
other town.
If I may, we presented this at the Water Bureau a couple of times. The town of Portland has just invested $8 million in drilling new wells to get off of the MDC system, so they're not interested in our water system. We're hoping the town has a change in leadership on the first selectman. And we're hoping to have a conversation with the new selectmen to see if they've changed their mind, but they're in the process of drilling the production well. They drilled a test well. They received authorization from the town to spend about $1.5 million to drill the test well. And then they received just a number of months ago authorization from the town to proceed with, I think, $8 to $10 million project to drill the well, the new well, and connect it to the infrastructure. So they're moving forward. Our contract ends with them on January 26th. We're hoping and trying to understand what they want from us for water for the future. Is it nothing? Is it something? But there's a little bit of a lag in communication because they had an immediate, I don't understand what happened, but the first selectman left the town. So did the engineer who was designing the project, went to work for somebody else. So we're trying to figure that out.
Thank you. Any other questions regarding this item? Okay, well, if there's no objection, I'm just gonna have the committee receive the report.
Yes.
No objection? All right, well, the report was received. Item number 8 is an opportunity for general public comments. Anyone here? The public? Okay, thank you, Brandon, by the way, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9 is Commissioner's request for consideration of future agenda items. Hearing none. And with no other business before us, this meeting is adjourned.